You're tuned in to the only all-sports talk network in the Middle East, IsraelSportsRadio.com.
Check out the Israel Sports Radio store by clicking on the store tab on IsraelSportsRadio.com. Great items such as t-shirts, hats, books, and much, much more. Price does include shipping, and we do ship throughout the entire world. All major credit cards are accepted to make your shopping experience easy and convenient. So once again, click on the store tab on www.israelsportsradio.com.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting founder Dick Robinson.
You know, the media business has changed a lot since we opened our doors in 1964. Now media content is everywhere, on air, online, on the go. More than ever, companies are looking for people to help drive this new media.
At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, you'll get hands-on training on the latest software and equipment in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has placed thousands of grads in broadcast media careers.
It's all about versatility. You see, at a radio station, if you also know how to shoot, edit, and post videos, you become a pretty hot commodity. That's the training you get at Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with locations up and down the East Coast, from Massachusetts to Miami. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Connecticut School of Broadcasting, the nation's oldest and largest group of broadcast media schools, redefining training in radio, TV, and new media. Get trained. Get connected. 1-800-TV-RADIO.
Live from Studio C at the Cherry Hill campus for the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, it's Sports Talk with...
Down goes Frazier! He scores! High fly ball into right field. She is gone! Whoa, Black Betty, bam, lamb. Whoa, Black Betty, bam, lamb.
Welcome to Sports Talk Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. We had a lot of things going on the NFL the last couple of weeks, and also, of course, we had the trade deadline yesterday in the National Hockey League coming and going. We'll get to some of those winners and losers in the NHL a little later on in the show. We also have, of course, WFAN Islanders columnist Daniel Friedman joining me in I'd say probably about a half an hour. On contraire, probably about 20 minutes he'll be on, I was just told. And we also have Brian Skinnell. He covers the NL East for Yahoo Sports. He'll be joining me a little later on in the show, talking about the Phillies, the Mets, and all those teams in the NL East. And a little later on after that, we also have Jim Smiley, covers the MLB scene for over 20 years, talking about the Yankees, the Dodgers, and, of course, the rest of the face of Major League Baseball. You want to get in on the conversation, of course, as always, 856-330-4749. You can send me a tweet at the Yossi, GTHEYOSSIG, or a message on Facebook, facebook.com, and search. We had the NHL trading deadline, of course, came and went yesterday, but a little bit before the trading deadline, and we'll get to the trading deadline in just a moment, the NFL has put forth this whole idea that they're going to be changing a couple of rules, and these are rules that we've had for either one rule. Of course, it's been in place for the last couple of years, that being against offensive and abusive language, and they want to add to that, of course, the N-word. They want to add a 15-yard penalty for using that word on the football field, but also more so, they also want to add another rule, that being the point after touchdown. Instead of, as we've all grown up with, a point after touchdown being from the 2-yard line, just like a 2-point conversion potentiality, they want to take the point after, and if you're going to kick it, they want to move it back to the 25-yard line. So it goes now from a 20-yard chip shot to a 43-yard kick attempt. The reason behind all of this is so the coaches in the NFL coaching the teams would think a second time, think twice about going for that point after. Maybe we should just go for the 2-point conversion. It keeps the game going. It keeps the flow of the game, and it does not allow, as many people have deemed the point after play, to become a bathroom break or a let me go refill my beer break, get me another snack break. They want it to be another play just like anything else within the NFL. They want it to be just as exciting as any other play, as a touchdown pass or as a first down play conversion, something along that nature. The problem is like this. With a point after rule change, do kickers, what's the whole reason why the NFL have even put this forward that they would be considering this is because kickers converted 99.6% of PATs last season. Out of over 1,200 point after touchdowns, kicking attempts, only 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on one hand, you can count them. Only 5 kicks missed their mark. Because it seemed like it has become such an automatic play, the NFL wanted to throw in a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of a degree of difficulty, if you may. And that is why they are proposing that they will move the kicks from the 20-yard line to about the 43, from the snap of the ball from the 2-yard line to the 25. Now, really, should kickers have to be penalized for being really good, for doing their job day in, day out, week in, week out? Think of Mariano Rivera for a moment in Major League Baseball when he was pitching. Should he have been penalized being a reliever because he was such a good closer year in and year out? Should they have taken something away from him? Should baseball have added some sort of crease in its rule book that would have made it a little bit more difficult for Mariano to be so automatic like New York Yankees fans were so used to since 1997 until he retired after last year? The NFL wants to push back the point after from the 2-yard line to the 25, making it a 43-yard kick, but doing so will likely injure more players, because when you have the defense lining up at the 2-yard line, they're thinking, all right, whatever, chip shot, the guy's going to get in, we won't try as hard, we won't rush necessarily the kicker as much, especially if it's like in the middle of the second quarter. But if you push the kick from a 20-yard line, and now it's at the 43-yard line, the defense is going to think, we can block this longer kicking try. Let's go. Let's jump the gun. And that's not going to be doing the NFL any favors in terms of making the game any safer. You're talking about a league that has had issues with concussions, has had issues with injuries year in, year out, and it's only getting worse. And now you want to add another increased potentiality for injury by pushing the PATs farther away from where they have been for as long as I can remember. Now, I'm getting here a Facebook message from John in Philly. He says he doesn't want point after touchdowns. Every touchdown should be 7 points, and the 2-point conversion, if you convert, will either bring it to a total of 8, and a failed 2-point conversion means only 6 points. So in other words, a team has to go for a 2-point conversion after every single touchdown. To a degree, I will be in the same boat as John. However, you have to give a team an option. They can't just have one play. A coach cannot just have one thing to do, because then there's no guessing game there. I mean, you know what's going to happen. You know what to expect. You know that it's going to be a point after, or rather a 2-point conversion try. So it's either going to be another pass play or another run play. You have to give the coach the option. If he doesn't want 6 points or 8 points, I mean, he'd, of course, love 8 points, but if he doesn't want 6 points, you got to give him the option to go for one more than just to get 7. You can't say that, you have to go for the 2-point conversion to bring it to 8, and if you fail, and that's kind of where the game's going to be won or lost. It's going to become a 2-point conversion game. Can you stop them on this one play or not? I think that what the NFL really should do, if it really wants change, and you the NFL want to bring it about in this point after attempt through this fashion, through this manner, the NFL should change the point after attempt in order to have coaches go more for 2-point conversions. The NFL really wants coaches to go out and try 2-point conversions, try converting those versus just going with the, shall we call it, vanilla point after kick. If you want to give coaches a reason to go for a 2-point conversion more often than not, or as often as they do right now for point afters, then I think the NFL should move the 2-point try from the 2-yard line to the 1-yard line. Leave the point after as it is. You want to kick it from the 2-yard line to kick it. It's a 10-yard line about, so it's a 20-yard kick. You get it in, you get 1 point. You don't want to go for the point after. You want to try 2-point conversion? That goes from the 1-yard line, not the 2-yard line anymore. That 1 yard, as insignificant as it seems, 3 feet is huge in the NFL, especially when you're talking about right there on the goal line. You can have a quarterback sneak. You can have a fullback pop through. You can have a jump over the pile. You can have a fade. There are so many options that an offense has that it can use from the 1-yard line, that from the 2-yard line, believe it or not, those options are not as likely. That part of the playbook is still going to be closed. I feel that the NFL wants to change it. That's where it should change. The 2-point conversion, you push it up to the 1-yard line. Point after, you leave it at the 2-yard line. Now, the other rule that the NFL wants to not necessarily change, but add, is the obscene rule, is the obscenities rule, the not necessarily swear words, but the derogatory verbiage that can be used and on the field. That is what they want to change. Is the derogatory verbiage used on the field from one player to an opponent that is penaltyable, if that's a word. What the NFL wants to do now is add the N-word to that. So it would kind of be, you have a play gets, it's 3rd and 10 from the 36-yard line, and the team goes, nope, it's an incomplete pass, broken up by the cornerback, and then there's a penalty flag on the play. Tune into the referees. Referee says, it's a personal foul, unnecessary use of derogatory language, defense number 20 whatever, 23, and now suddenly you go from a punt situation or a long field goal try to it's 1st and 10. We got to go through this all over again now, says the defense. The question that I have isn't so much of, the N-word, should it be and should it not be, but you do put it. Let's assume for a moment you put it in. You put in the rule portion or a portion of the rule that says the N-word cannot be used. You use it, 15-yard penalty. How is that going to be enforced exactly? You're telling me that the edict being put forth, the N-word cannot be used. You're going to be asking the referee, whose job's already difficult. Now he's going to have to make a judgment call. Because a lot of players are saying, we use the N-word among teammates. It's a friendly thing. It's a way that we kind of show endearment toward one another. Now you're going to tell me the referee has to start thinking as to who said it to whom, who was it directed at? Now, is it a friendly manner? Was it not so friendly? It's going to be a subjective, it's going to be a judgmental call. The referee's job is hard enough as it is. You're going to tell me that you're going to make the referee make a call based upon what he deems the use of the word, if it's virulent or if it or and not kind. I mean, I don't understand. What happens when it's going to be said from one teammate to another? Will the referee throw a flag because of that? According to a lot of the black players in the NFL community, Doug Baldwin, Richard Sherman, to name a couple, the N-word is not used in the derogatory or negative manner. It's used as a term of endearment from one black player to another. Sherman has said, he wrote on MMQB, Monday Morning Quarterback, it's Peter King's website, that should the NFL implement only the N-word, that in and of itself should be considered racist, because you're negating the non-black players from this terminology, because anyone who's not black knows what the N-word connotes, knows what it consists of, knows its history, or at least should know its history. So you're, by the NFL, saying, no, the N-word cannot be used. That's really just putting a penalty up against the black players. Isn't that racist? The question Richard Sherman has, and I have as well, is why limit it to just the N-word? Why not all offensive language? Why not derogatory language towards homosexuals? Why not make a list of certain swear words, certain curses, certain derogatory language. Include it all. Not just the N-word. For the NFL to enact such a rule that says the N-word cannot be used, it's essentially affecting only the black population in the NFL. Think of it like this. The NFL is run by a white commissioner. It could almost be compared to a slave owner targeting the black population with this one word. I understand what Roger Goodell wants to do. I understand what the NFL is trying to accomplish. But why only this one word? Why not all other offensive language? You only use one word, then it opens up all these other avenues for you to be questioned. How will it be enforced? Is this not in and of itself racist? If you open up all the avenues of language and say all derogatory language, all language that can be taken in a negative term, they are all included in this rule, in this penalty, that I'm cool with, that I understand, that I get. Just the N-word, that I have a problem. 856-330-4749. When I come back from this quick commercial break, we will have on with us WFAN Islanders columnist Daniel Friedman breaking down the winners, the losers, what he thinks of the NHL trade deadline. Radio powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting and the Yossi G Show simulcasted on IsraelSportsRadio.com. We'll be right back.
It's been 48 years Connecticut School of Broadcasting has helped place thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I did. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
Your computer is blowing up to the sounds of All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Welcome back to Radio powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. We're going to have on with us shortly WFAN's Islanders columnist Dan Friedman. He'll be joining me talking about the NHL trade deadline, the winners, the losers, and of course what he thinks about what happened in the New York metropolitan area with those teams. Again, you want to chime in on the conversation, we'll try to get you on, 856-330-4749, or you can send me a Twitter message at Twitter at TheYossi, GTHEYOSSIG, or on Facebook, facebook.com, and search for Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi. But without further ado, we're going to bring on right now WFAN Islanders columnist Daniel Friedman. Dan, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Very good, Dan. So a lot of things going on the last, shall we say, 36 hours or so. Yesterday was a flourish right to the end. What do you think overall? Some winners, some losers. But first, let's talk about your Islanders. What exactly happened with this Thomas Van Eck trade? You had the Islanders, late October, they brought him in from Buffalo. They gave up Matt Moulson for him and 2 picks. Now they pretty much let him go for a bag of pucks.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it a bag of pucks per se, but it was nowhere near what they needed to get for him. Anyone who knows me knows that I was against the Van Eck trade to begin with, that it was a completely redundant trade. You traded away a guy who scores money for 30 goals every year or more with Tavares on the line. So, you get that for something that may be a little more sexy but unnecessary. You had a better chance of re-signing Moulson. I think now you traded him, you kind of burnt that bridge. But in any event, They gave a lot to get him, and they waited down to the wire. And I think Garth Snow thought the price would get a little better. It didn't. It was a miscalculation, and it severely backfired. I wouldn't call it a bag of pucks. So they did get a good prospect back, Sebastian Kohlberg. The Canadiens really have top 6 forward potential. I do like him, but to get a second-round pick, not a first-round pick back, that's inexcusable for me. It's just it's just a culmination of what's been a horrible year for the Islanders.
Well, certainly the Canadiens' GM Mark Bergevin, he certainly played a really good game of poker with Garth Snow, that's for sure. But when you talk about the Islanders and the ownership, you have Charles Wang. He's had the Islanders for many years, and former owner John Spano took to Twitter yesterday and he called out Charles Wang, and he said that that Wang should sell the team because, quote, he's caused the Islanders fan base too much heartache. Do you agree with that? What's your take on that?
I mean, whether it should happen, whether it can happen, I think are two different things. If you look at Charles Wang's situation, he's lost a lot of money on the team. And, he's moving the team to Brooklyn now after the whole Coliseum fallout. And, you look at the value of the franchise right now from a business perspective. I don't know how he can sell the team. It's tough to justify. You look at how much money he's lost, and then you can understand almost why he's budgeting here. If you make a bad business investment, you don't keep pouring money into it. But he's got to wait till that team moves to Barclays Center and the value goes up a little bit, I think, before he sells. And I think at some point, I think he will sell. I think somewhere deep down he realizes this gig isn't for him anymore. It didn't go exactly the way he was hoping for. Nobody's going to say, I'm just going to keep this thing that's losing me hundreds of millions of dollars forever. That's just not something anyone ever thinks, ever.
Right.
So
no, for sure.
I think it will eventually reach a point where he sells, probably in the next 5 years, I would say. I would be shocked if the team hasn't changed hands in the next 5 years. But, until then, yeah, it may be trying times for Islander fans.
Well, yeah, certainly he's going to have to try to find a way that he can recoup some of his money. And the other Islanders move that they made actually was on Tuesday. It was sending Andy McDonald to Philadelphia for 2 picks and a minor leaguer. Why do you think the Islanders were so willing to trade their the veteran D guy, and send him to Philly where his former line mate is?
Well, I mean, the truth is McDonald is a very valuable defenseman in a certain role. I think he was playing a bigger role on Long Island than he should have been. He was also asking for a lot of money, and to pay that kind of money for a guy who should be a number 4, maybe number 3, maybe a number 3, most likely a number 4 or 5 defenseman. That's hard to justify from anyone. That from the Philly has a history of paying players too much money. Maybe they'll go for it, but I thought it was the right move at the time. His contract's expiring, he didn't want too much. The Islanders, who were in all-star mode, I thought they got more for him than I expected them to. I thought they'd end up with that second-round pick. They ended up with that, a third-round pick, and a throw-in prospect, and really not a bad return for him at all.
Oh, we're talking with WFAN Islanders columnist Daniel Friedman. Daniel, the Flyers, what does it mean for them that they have now McDonald and his former line mate Mark Streit back together? How will that help the Flyers going forward for their playoff push?
I really don't know, I'll be honest with you. They still, to me, they're that team that's looking for a defensive anchor. And, I thought maybe they would go after, let's say, Stefan Robidas of the Dallas Stars. I thought that was really who they'd use. Instead, they make another puzzling move. They go after McDonald. He's really not that guy they need. And they traded Andre Mazzaros to the Boston Bruins. So, for my money, I would rather have Mazzaros than McDonald. It's almost like their defense got worse yesterday. So, from their perspective, I don't quite see it. I don't understand what they were thinking. Maybe they think that McDonald and Streit can, rekindle some of that chemistry, and they probably will. But still, it's not enough. You're trying to put together a playoff run. You kind of need someone to shore up the defense, and not sure Andrew McDonald is that guy.
Not talking with WFAN Islanders columnist Dan Friedman. Dan, the Rangers and the Lightning, of course, made arguably the biggest splash yesterday when they swapped captains Ryan Callahan and Marty St. Louis. Who do you think got the better of the deal now, as the season has about about 20 games or so to go?
Well, now it's the Rangers. Long term, I think it's too early to tell. For me, this is the kind of move for the Rangers. If you're going to go for it and you're going to try and win the Stanley Cup either this year or next year, and you contend, then okay, that's fine. But if you're not and you're going to fall tremendously short, that's a lot to give up. When you're seemingly going all in. They traded a first-round pick in 2015, a second-round pick. They gave Ryan Callahan, who you might have been losing at the end of the year, but nonetheless, I was very surprised it ended up this way. I'm not surprised that Marty St. Louis ended up on the Rangers. I'm surprised that it happened now. I thought it was going to happen this summer. I thought Ryan Callahan was going to stick around. To be honest, from what I had last heard, they were relatively close on contract talks. And then somewhere along the line, I guess it broke down. As Glenn Stater said, at a certain point, you just have to say no. And it's hard to tell for the Lightning. I think you get some real big assets. You get Callahan for the rest of the year, who's not St. Louis. But you do have Stamkos returning to the lineup, so he can kind of step in there. And they were playing without him, just St. Louis for a while. And then you got a guy like Ryan Callahan, who will provide some scoring punch, will be a very good two-way player, and a good leader. So I do, I don't think all is lost on Tampa Bay's front at all. I think they could still put together a run here, And for the future, obviously they have those draft picks that could help them. So I think it's too early to tell long term who won the deal.
Well, certainly in terms of Glenn Sather, he said that what happened between his side and Callahan's side is that it was about $250,000 to $500,000 difference per year, and also that Callahan wanted a no trade clause, and that really, I think, was where as the adage goes, the straw that broke the camel's back. And when you have players like that, I mean, it also is refreshing for Rangers fans to know, in a twisted sense, that Glenn Sather is still going to hold his guns. He's not going to go out and do the thing necessarily that he used to do about 10, 12 years ago and go out and get that guy or go out and make the move that everybody in New York wanted. Sometimes it's going against the grain for, the immediate, justification, but also sticking to his guns and saying, at a certain point, like you said, enough is enough, and that is just too much. And before we let you go, the Washington Capitals also made a move in the Eastern Conference. They brought in Dustin Penner and Yaroslav Halak. Halak is obviously eager to prove the St. Louis Blues wrong. What does it mean for the Capitals making these two moves now going for their cup push?
Well, I think first thing, it gives them a goaltender, that they can kind of rally around. I mean, I like Braden Holtby. He's a good, young, talented goaltender. I don't think he's their guy yet. And Yaroslav Halak, he'll kind of be able to settle things down. And, even if he is a temporary solution, he can step in and be a number one. They haven't really had that in a while. So, stability, and that would be nice, especially because that team defensively is, a train wreck. And, I like the move to bring in Dustin Penner, cup winner. A lot of experience. He's a good two-way game, physical. I think the Capitals, to an extent, were missing that on their offense. Way too much on skill and not enough grinders and guys like that. So I think Dustin Penner's a nice add. I would like to see the Capitals make a run here. I think they can.
Talking with Islanders columnist from WFAN, Dan Friedman. Dan, before we let you go, one last question. We have a little tweet in here. One of our listeners wants to know who, in your estimation, was the winner in the NHL trade deadline.
Who was the winner? It's a little tough to tell, to be honest with you. I think you kind of have to go with the Rangers. If you look at the teams, which of the playoff teams got marginally better, it's either the Rangers or the St. Louis Blues, because to me those are the two teams that really added some punch. Maybe the Montreal Canadiens I put right up there as well. You look at those three teams. The Blues added Ryan Miller, which I think took them from being a really good team to an incredibly good team. It's as if neither scenario is a good one. But then you look at the Rangers; they improved dramatically. You swap Ryan Callahan, and you put St. Louis all of a sudden on that side. That's a huge upgrade. And from the Montreal Canadiens perspective, like you mentioned, practically a steal for Thomas Vanek. And this is a team in the Eastern Conference is wide open. You got a goaltender in Carey Price who can steal at points at any time for you. You got an offense that's wide open now, and they add Thomas Vanek to the mix, pure goal scorer that they were kind of missing. And maybe now the Canadiens can make a run. So I would say those three teams. It's almost a three-way tie for first place. I can't really pick one over the other, to be honest.
Oh, well, look, we have what we have, and we'll see what happens with the rest of the season as it plays out. But certainly it was a lot of fun to see all the moves happening right down to the wire, and then, of course, the Vanek trade being announced just after 3 o'clock yesterday. Dan, as always, thanks very much for taking the time.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, take care. That was Daniel Friedman, WFAN Islanders columnist, joining me here on Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi on All Noise Radio, and also simulcasted with the Yossi G Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com. For me, I would say really the winners and the losers, it kind of breaks down to a couple teams for me really won out here. Obviously, we know the Rangers getting better right now in the immediate future, the right now future, getting Marty St. Louis. He's a proven goal scorer, and he's a guy who really brings grit. He can play both power play, penalty kill. He can do it all. The Blues, they trade away Yaroslav Halak for Ryan Miller. They got a gritty forward, Steve Ott from Buffalo as well. They gained a lot of flexibility for next year by shredding Chris Stewart's contract in that trade for Ott. And so I see they also have improved a lot. And also I look at the Canadians with that steal with Thomas Vanek from the Islanders for next to nothing. And I really, really applaud what Mark Bergevin, the Montreal GM, what he did for playing a spectacular poker with Garth Snow, because, hey, Garth Snow wanted more and Bergevin was not willing to give more, and that's what they ended up with. My biggest loser is going to be the Islanders, because essentially what the Islanders gave up this year in terms of Vanek, they traded him for next to nothing to Montreal, and the net gain this season regarding Vanek was 47 games for a first and second rounder to Buffalo in that whole Matt Molson deal, and now a conditional second rounder and Kohlberg back from the Montreal Canadiens. So when you look at what they get, Sebastian Kohlberg from Sweden, the conditional second round pick, and 47 games of Vanek for a first and second rounder, and Matt Molson, sheesh, that's a big loss right there for the Islanders. And also I look at the Florida Panthers. There was like a fire sale down in Florida. They brought back Roberto Luongo from Vancouver. They got rid of a moderately priced Tim Thomas, and they gave up on goalie prospect Jacob Markstrom and their huge center that they had, Sean Matthias, in that entire Luongo deal. Is very not good for what they did. Luongo is 35 years old. He's got 12 years, $64 million deal, and most of it now is going to be soaking up the Florida sunshine. What the Canucks did, they were also able to hold on to Ryan Kessler, and they didn't trade him. They are going to fetch a higher price for him probably in the summer when they trade him. But the Panthers and the Islanders, the biggest losers, and I would say the Rangers, then the Blues, then the Canadians as your top three winners in the NHL trade deadline. You're listening to Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, simulcasted with IsraelSportsRadios.com's The Yossi G Show. Don't go anywhere. When I return, I'm going to have on with me, joining me is going to be Brian Skinnell. He is the NL East columnist contributor for Yahoo Sports. Don't go anywhere. Sports Talk with the Sports.
Honey, again you're sitting here sulking?
I hate my job and I don't know what to do to change it.
Get off the couch and go check out the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
The Connecticut School of Broadcasting? What's that? The Connecticut School of Broadcasting offers a career and lifestyle change through a broadcasting experience you won't ever forget. Log on to GoCSB.com to find out how a career in broadcasting is for you and not just the people you see on TV or hear on the radio. CSB focuses on many aspects of real-world broadcasting, and their knowledgeable instructors teach you through a hands-on approach so you're in the studio in no time. To find out how CSB can help you work in an industry you love, call 1-800-TV-RADIO or check us out online at GoCSB.com.
Why work 50 weeks a year for a 2-week vacation when you can enjoy your job every day?
Don't just sit there. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
Thanks, CSB.
All Noise Radio. The noise you can't ignore.
On All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. As always, 856-330-4749. And also simulcasted with IsraelSportsRadio.com as the Yossi G Show. You want to hop in, get in on the conversation. Again, 856-330-4749. Or you can send me a tweet at the Yossi G, TheYossig, or send me a message on Facebook. Search for Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi. We're going to have Brian Skinnell who covers the NL East for Yahoo Sports. He's going to hop on with us in just a moment or two. We're going to get him on here as soon as we can. But in the meantime, you talk about what's been going on in the NL, in baseball. You have, of course, the Grapefruit League and you know, being played, and spring training and all that stuff going on. Braves have had a rough off season. We'll talk to Brian about that and what the loss of Brian McCann to the Yankees means, and of course the Phillies, and they always seem to be getting a little older. It just, you know, Cole Hamels, his shoulder issues, and he was only able to throw 35 pitches. He won't be throwing for another week for the Phillies. Got, you know, he says his shoulder is feeling fatigued. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the NL East, where everything plays. Because right now I think the favorite in the NL East is the Washington Nationals. I mean, look at the lineup, look at the pitching. It has to be the Nationals because no other team really can hold their own to what the Nationals bring, to that powerhouse in a very weak NL East. The Mets, they did make some additions in the offseason, but that's probably not going to be enough for them to even, get to a 500 record, let alone the playoffs. You look at the Marlins. Well, the Marlins are always the Marlins. I mean, they're just looking to sell. They're always looking to get younger. They're always looking to get a smaller, payroll, even though they have this beautiful, nice stadium smack in the middle of Little Havana in South Florida. And when you look at the other big teams, the Atlanta Braves, they're still good, but of course, Brian McCann, it's a big question mark how that will affect both his hitting, both what he brought at the plate, as well as his catching. I mean, he was the guy who caught all those pitchers. How will it affect the pitchers with the new catcher? And of course, the Philadelphia Phillies, who always seem to be getting older. It's kind of like the Yankees. They're getting older, but they're not getting any better, if you get what I'm saying. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And joining us right now here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, joining me right now on Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi, and also simulcasted with the Yossi G Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com, Brian Skinnell, covering the NL East for Yahoo Sports. What's going on, Brian?
Hey, how we doing today?
Very good. So let's get right off the bat. I know that you're down in the DC area, and your team right there, the Washington Nationals, look primed to make a move for the NL pennant. And, they're going to take probably the NL East, and they're going to really push because they're not going to do any of this, shall we say, we're going to watch and see how many innings our pitchers throw. We're none of that Strasburg crap. It's going to be go, go, go. How likely do you see the Nationals firstly taking the NL East and then vying for the NL pennant crown?
Well, it's funny. Last year we thought for sure the Nationals were going to get to the World Series. They're going to win it all. It's going to be a great year for DC baseball, and then they missed the playoffs. So right now, in my head, and I guess if you want to look at it from with the fan cap on, I'm being very cautiously optimistic because I don't want to get my hopes too high. But realistically, I think we can expect them to win the NL East, like you said, and then get to the NLCS and possibly win that to get to the World Series. And about a week ago, I wrote an expectations article for the Nats, and that was pretty much exactly what I said. We can expect them to win the NL East. They're good enough to do that with their pitching, with their hitting, with their bullpen, with their bench. I think they're good enough to be able to win the NL East and get to the NLCS. I think they need to shoot for regular season like 2012, in which they won 96 games, and then do much better in the postseason than they did that year by an early exit in the wild card round, or the divisional series, excuse me. So, I think that we can expect them to get to the NLCS and to win the NL East without a doubt.
Well, certainly by having Steven Strasburg pitch, that would kind of help, I think, in the playoffs. But looking at some of the other teams in the NL East, the Atlanta Braves are one of those teams that right away jumps off the page and right away comes to mind when you talk about a team that has the possibility or has the chance of, when you look at the teams all on paper, of maybe kind of posing some problems to the Washington Nationals. But the Braves lost a very big piece in Brian McCann to the Yankees in the offseason. The Mets acquired a couple of offseason pieces, most notably, of course, Curtis Granderson from the Yankees. But the Mets, they still don't look like they're recovering from the Bernie Madoff scam. The Marlins are the Marlins, and the Phillies continue to age very ungracefully. Is there any team, when you look at all the others in the NL East, that has a chance to challenge the Nationals for NL East supremacy?
I think it's without a doubt. I think it's the Braves. I think for years to come, I think it'll be between the Nats and the Braves in the NL East. Because, like you said, the Phillies, they're not getting any younger. The Mets, they're still in a recovery mode, and the Marlins, I think they're still building. I think that's a team down in Miami that's really still working on putting the pieces in place. I think it's a team that in a few years could end up kind of like the Nationals, where they built through the draft and through the minor leagues, and they were able to field a team for the future. And I think that's kind of what's going on down in Miami. But I definitely think it's Atlanta. Atlanta's going to be the top contender. You look at Freddie Freeman, the Upton brothers, Freddie Garcia. They lost Brian McCann, but I think they're going to find somebody there that's going to be real good to replace them. Or to replace him, even though he's very hard to replace. So, say what you about the Mets getting Curtis Granderson, and you can make a case about the Phillies picking up A.J. Burnett, but I think that it's still going to be Atlanta and Washington, and when it comes down to it, to win the NL East.
Well, talking about the Phillies and talking about A.J. Burnett, a lot of people in Philadelphia really feel that the Phillies have no hope. Ruben Amaro, general manager, he's gone ahead and just added aging player after aging player, re-signing aging player after aging player, and not necessarily getting younger. That would really be the common, what you would figure as to what he should do. It seems like he's really instigating the fans to go against him, and you turn on the radio dial and anywhere in Philadelphia and hear fans calling in to talk sports talk radio, just really ripping the general manager. Do you think that the Phillies have any hope in the immediate future with the signing of A.J. Burnett, with the re-signing of Chase Utley, and with even bringing back Bobby Abreu after sitting out baseball for a whole year?
Well, being from the D.C. market, I get to see the Redskins a lot, and so I can say from firsthand experience that re-signing your aging players is not a good idea. That's one thing that the Redskins did for many years, and still do it with a couple of players today, and it definitely hasn't worked out well for them. So, you don't want to count a team out before things have already gotten started, but you're absolutely right. They're not getting any younger, and they don't seem to be showing signs of wanting to get any younger by going out and signing A.J. Burnett. And Burnett was a pitcher that I felt the Nationals should have gone after, because I think that he could give them a good year for a good price. I think if he came at a cheap one-year deal, and by cheap, that's a very relative thing to say, but I guess team-friendly would be a more appropriate thing to say.
Right.
Then I think that Burnett was a guy that the Nationals maybe should have gone after, because he really would have solidified that number 5 spot in the rotation, and we could have been looking at one of the best rotations in baseball in the past decade, and maybe even further back than that. So, to go back to the Phillies, I don't see a lot of hope there either. Simply because of their age, they haven't gotten any younger. They didn't really go out and sign any young high price, big name, young free agents. They kind of just stayed old and have not got older. And in a game like baseball, where it's 164 grueling games, you need youth on your team, and that's one thing that they are definitely lacking.
100%. I'm talking here with Brian Skinnell of Yahoo Sports. Lastly, before we let you go, which manager or GM, plural or singular, do you think will be fired before the season is over in the NL East?
Well, Philadelphia. The guys there in Philadelphia.
So you see
them.
So Ruben Amaro Jr.
Yeah.
Well,
because of the fact that what we just talked about, the offseason wasn't exactly a strong offseason.
Right.
And I think that that's not going to be a fun team to watch.
Well, fair enough. I have a couple of A or P guys out there in the field, and really when you see somebody like a Chase Utley going out for that short pop fly in shallow right field, you're hoping he doesn't break a hip. I totally understand that. Brian, it's been a pleasure. I know you're a little busy today, and we're going to have to let you go. We're coming right up here on a commercial break. So thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to join me here on Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi and on the Yossi Show.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on. Always a blast.
No problem. Thanks a lot. Take care. That was Brian Skinnell of Yahoo Sports joining me here talking about the NL East and breaking it down. And really, that's what it comes down to. It's all about you got to make your fans happy. And in Philadelphia, that's really not what Ruben Amaro is doing. He re-signed Chase Utley. Yeah, he's a fan favorite, but he's old. You have him. You have Ryan Howard. And you bring back Bobby Abreu. I mean, this guy's 39, 40 years old by the time the season's going to start. He was out of baseball for a whole year, and you're bringing him back, even if it's just for the bench, which is what is claimed by Ruben Amaro. Still, it's the image. And at the end of the day, if fans keep, clamoring for your head, and clamoring for you to be fired if the team does not compete well and does not make the postseason. And really, when you have a team like this that's aging, it's not getting any younger, not getting necessarily any better, and you have a team that is not going to necessarily be able to fill the seats because fans are going to be so upset by the time it gets to July and early August that the team's out of playoff contention, there's no reason to come to the stadium, that's when you're really going to see heads fly. That's when Ruben Amaro probably will get fired because he is putting himself into a position where everything must fall perfectly into place. Players have to stay healthy. Players have to hit timely. Players have to pitch well. When you line up all those stars where they must all align just so, your chances for error are zero. One player goes out for on the 60-day DL, 15-day DL here, a 15-day DL there, you probably can overcome. A 60-day DL thing, not really going to do you any good and probably going to get you fired. And that's why I totally agree with Brian in what he said, his estimation there, Brian Skinnell, of Ruben Amaro Jr. probably going to be the one who is on the hottest hot seat, and probably going to find the axe. Sports Rabbi here on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, simulcasted with the Yossi G Show on IsraelSportsRadio.com. When I come back, Jim Smiley from the MLB scene. He's been there covering the Major League Baseball for over 20 years, and he's part of the Society for American Baseball Research. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
You know, our jobs occupy more than half our waking hours. Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes in audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
Your computer is blowing up to the sounds of All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, simulcasted, of course, with IsraelSportsRadio.com as the Yossi G Show. As always, 856-330-4749, or you can tweet at me at the Yossi G, TheYossig, or send me a message on Facebook, Facebook.com, and search for Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi. Of course, thanks again to Brian Skinnell of Yahoo Sports. Came on just a little bit ago talking about the NL East, and of course, Daniel Friedman, who was on earlier in the show, talking about the big names flying around the NHL trade deadline having come and gone yesterday. And, of course, the big winners, the New York Rangers, having swapped captains with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Ryan Callahan goes south. Marty St. Louis comes up north to Broadway. Joining me shortly is going to be Jim Smiley of DodgersExaminer.com. Talk about the Yankees a little bit and what they've done over the course of the offseason. But really, you also have to look across the coast to the Dodgers and what they've done over the course of the offseason. And there's a lot of questions out in Dodgerland. I mean, they went out, they spent a lot of money, and what they did was they brought in guys who can play and who they know that can play. And, of course, the question then becomes with the Dodgers, where do they go from here? What happens? There's a lot of questions to be asked. And, of course, right now we have on with me DodgersExaminer.com, Jim Smiley, veteran of the Major League Baseball scene for over 20 years. What's going on, Jim?
Oh, nothing much. Just getting ready for the season. We're pretty excited over here in Los Angeles.
Oh, nice. Good to hear. And I'm sure you have a little nicer weather than we do out here on the East Coast. But getting right into it, you know, you have the Yankees spent a lot of money on fielding and on pitching. The Dodgers also spent a lot of money in the offseason. Are these two teams the favorites for the World Series as we know it?
Well, I think that the Dodgers are a consensus pick right now, definitely to reach the postseason. Saying that they're a favorite to get to the World Series might be a stretch, but I think they'll be right there. As far as the Yankees are concerned, I really see that I don't like the contracts and the moves they made, but understanding that they are the New York Yankees, they had to make those moves. But I'm not so sure that they're going to get out of that division to even qualify for the postseason with the roster as it now stands.
Well, we know the Yankees, of course, in the AL East, really, really difficult division, arguably the most difficult division in Major League Baseball. Dodgers in the National and in the NL West, I'm not going to say they have an easy ride themselves, because you've got a team like the San Francisco Giants. They've been playing pretty well. The Arizona Diamondbacks have put forth a pretty good team. What do you think the Dodgers' mindset is coming into this season? Because, as we all know, the regular season is a marathon, the postseason's a sprint.
Well, the good news is I think they're built from a roster standpoint for both the marathon and the sprint. As far as the marathon goes, they've got one of the deepest rotations in all of baseball. You've got the reigning Cy Young Award winner Kershaw top. You've got Greinke, a former Cy Young winner himself, and then the rotation rounded out by the Korean import Rue, and then Dan Herron, Josh Beckett. I mean, it's a pretty deep rotation as far as 162 games. The postseason being that sprint, I think you've got to have a horse at the top of the rotation. The Dodgers have two. And, if we look back at it, I think if Hanley Ramirez doesn't get injured there against St. Louis, maybe the Dodgers hold their own World Series parade this year. So I think they're going to be ready. They've got some questions with the roster, but this team's ready to win now and, quite honestly, to win for the future.
Well, we'll get to, what happens if the Dodgers don't win it this year. We'll get to that a little later on, but right now we're talking about all the money that they put forth this year. You have Kershaw's new deal, big contract with Beckett and Adrian Gonzalez. Do you see any big names on the chopping block to be traded between now and the trade deadline?
Absolutely not. I think this team, because it has a chance to win now, because that window's open, no one's going anywhere. The one thing that fans have called for is to relieve the outfield surplus, but in reality, that's not a surplus. Camp will not make the trade, not make the trip to Australia there for opening week. Carl Crawford might not either. He's expecting a child soon. And there's some question there with Puig reporting a little bit heavier than he has before. So I really don't see the depth where they can trade any of these big salaries. And quite honestly, I don't know any club that would take some of these awful salaries.
Right.
Most of them are bad contracts.
Right. Well, when you look at them, they are pretty loaded, and it will take a lot of convincing from the Dodgers' standpoint for other teams to take on those contracts as we know them right now. But you mentioned Yossi Puig. What is exactly going on with Puig and the shall we call it the Dodgers organization as a whole regarding some of the insubordination with law enforcement that he's had over the last couple months in the offseason? What exactly has the Dodgers organization, Don Mattingly and company, what have they put in place to help guide Puig away from all the negative press?
Well, they're doing everything they can to guide Puig in the right direction. They've hired a driver for him. They impress upon him the importance of social responsibility. He's had the couple of reckless driving arrests, but no convictions. Everything's okay. But you're looking at a young man who's coming from Cuba and has an incredible amount of wealth, and it's easy to see a guy really kind of making some poor decisions. Now, it's interesting. There really hasn't been a lot of insubordination, but his unbridled enthusiasm has really rubbed some other teams the wrong way. I know that the Diamondbacks aren't really thoroughly enamored with Yossi Puig, and,
right.
and Dodgers too, as far as hitting the wrong cutoff man, maybe trying for the extra base when it's just not there. His talent is intriguing, but it does come with a little bit of baggage at this point in his life, at this early age.
Now, talking with DodgerExaminer.com, Jim Smiley, and of course a veteran of the baseball scene for over 2 decades, Don Mattingly. There's been a lot of questions surrounding him, surrounding what his future holds with the team. Is he on the hot seat, given that all that he has at his disposal from the Dodgers this season?
Well, he was signed for a contract that was due to end this year, and that would make him a lame duck, and he expressed his displeasure, and the Dodgers and Donnie came to an agreement for a 3-year deal. And it was really to calm the clubhouse, show that he's in charge, and let him implement his way. That being said, I think there are great expectations on this Dodger team this year. And if they get out of the gate slow, or if we're talking about a team that's out of first place, July, I think there would be a great deal of pressure. But his makeup and the way he handled himself and the class in which he carries himself is really something to behold. I get the chance to talk to him every day in the Dodger dugout there before the home games, and he just has a quiet class about him where at times he seems almost impervious to the problems and the pressure. I think he's a good man. I think he's the right man for the job right now.
DodgerExaminer.com, Jim Smiley, of course, joining me here on Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi, simulcasted as the Yossi G Show with IsraelSportsRadio.com. I know you have had a lot to do with the Hall of Fame over the years, and reading up a little bit about some of your takes on what the Hall of Fame represents today versus what it was a number of years ago. What is the best course of action, in your opinion, for baseball right now to take regarding the steroid era? Do you think it will ever be recognized in Cooperstown?
Well, first of all, it certainly is recognized in Cooperstown. There's plenty of different jerseys and balls and tips of the cap to guys like Barry Bonds and even McGuire, if you go see the different displays there. But I think as far as enshrining some of these guys, that gets to be a thorny issue. You have to decide what the Hall of Fame is. Is it a museum that tells the story of the game? Well, if so, it can't be absent of Barry Bonds. Is it the keeper of all that's right with the game? And then it becomes something different. But I believe it's 8 out of the top 13 home run hitters all time are from the steroid era or having steroid suspicions cloud them. So it gets to be a thorny issue. I do believe that most of those guys will end up getting in somewhere down the line, or perhaps with the Veterans Committee. But as for right now, that's really not there yet. I think where it's going to get interesting is there are some guys who narrowly missed the last couple of years who I've seen, and the rumble is that they've taken steroids. And I think once that seal is broken, then it gets pretty muddled at that point.
Do you think, and I know that a lot of people have been saying this, I, for one, have also been as much as I can, calling for something along this line. In Cooperstown, we know it's a museum. There's a lot of baseball history. It is all that is good with the sport. Do you think that what Major League Baseball should do is put up a separate wing for steroid era players, recognizing that this is part of the sport, or was part of the sport, we hope, and no longer is, and that these are the players who are there. We recognize their talent, their ability, but they also played and they use substance-enhancing drugs?
Well, there's not going to be a separate wing so much just because of the way that the museum is actually constructed. I could see a exhibit, perhaps, an exhibit where it was all about the steroid era and perhaps even things about how many guys hit. I could see a timeline with 50 home run hitters and guys who have hit 50 homers in a season and see how it spikes. And now you've got guys like Brady Anderson in that club.
Right.
Something like that where there's an exhibit. It would be easy to foresee, say, a Bonds plaque or a Clemens plaque if these guys get inducted, where there would be a mention or a sentence about them and their steroid use, or that they played during the steroid era. I think that's very likely. I think that these guys are going to get in at some point. Now, I might not agree with that. It's a difficult issue, but I think that at some point these guys are going to have to get recognized.
Interesting. I appreciate your knowledge and your wisdom on the topic. DodgersExaminer.com. Jim Smiley, as always, thanks very much for hopping on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, no problem, Jim. Take care. That was Dodgers.com. Jim Smiley, he contributes to that website, as well as the member of the Society for American Baseball Research and a veteran of Major League Baseball for over 2 decades. Always a pleasure to have him here on Sports Talk with the Sports Rabbi on All Noise Radio, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, simulcasted as the Yossi G Show with IsraelSportsRadio.com. Well, that seems to wrap everything up for me. Don't forget to tune in next week. It should be a lot of fun. See who will come on. We should probably be having a couple of surprises shortly to be announced. So stay tuned. Check out our Twitter feed and also our Facebook page. Don't forget to stay up to date with everything. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, and good night.
All Noise Radio. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. All Noise Radio is an internet radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Your computer is blowing up to the sounds of All Noise Radio. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.